of control across this province. And last night, the Central Okanagan Emergency Operations Centre issued an evacuation alert for 4,800 properties in West Kelowna, West Bank First Nation, and a portion of the Central Okanagan West electoral area. Now, we want to take you live to an update from Bowen Ma, Minister of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, as well as Minister Bruce Ralston. Let's take you live to that update right now.
An update on the current wildfire and drought situation, as well as this week's heat event. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the devastating wildfires in the Northwest Territories. This is a rapidly evolving situation. Our hearts and thoughts are with every community in the Northwest Territories who's been impacted, every person who's having to leave their home, and all the firefighters and emergency responders who are on the ground helping to keep people safe. I know Minister Ma will have more to say about the coordination with the Northwest Territories and our Western Province neighbours. Because as provinces and territories, we stand together during difficult times. While our thoughts are with the North, we must also remain vigilant here in British Columbia and be prepared for the difficult days ahead. This week, we've seen a heat wave exacerbate serious drought conditions and wildfire risks here in British Columbia. We are preparing for our own extreme fire behavior this week due to the convergence of dry lightning, strong winds, and drought conditions. There is a strong likelihood of new fire starts that will grow quickly and unpredictably in the coming days. In British Columbia, BC Wildfire service crews are working diligently to prepare for the days ahead. They're working to secure fire guard on active wildfires, doing planned ignition operations, and ensuring that active perimeters of fires are out. We also have international personnel in place from Australia, Mexico, Brazil, and Costa Rica. We thank all those personnel who are ending their tenure here and thank them for their service, and we look forward to welcoming additional incoming firefighters from Mexico, Ontario, and Eastern Canada. The top priority is always to protect people's lives and property. Yet we know these fires can start quickly and act unpredictably in these conditions. So we are urging people to stay aware of the wildfire situation in their area, to take precautions, and to report fires when they see them. For more on the current situation and next steps, I'll now turn it over to Cliff Chapman for more specifics on the potential extreme fire conditions. Cliff?
Thank you, Minister Ralston. My name is Cliff Chapman. I'm the Director of Provincial Operations for BC Wildfire Service. I'm honored to be here today on the traditional territory of Tecumloops District, where my family lives and where I work in Kamloops. Today, the intent of the messaging is to talk about the next 24 to 48 hours as we experience a significant weather event across BC that's forecast to begin basically as we're starting today in the north today, and then it's going to sweep down across the southern part of the central and then the southern part of the province. Before I get into the weather, I want to echo Minister Ralston's words for the Northwest Territories, as well as Hawaii and other fire agencies across North America that have been challenged with significant fire challenges this season. What's happening in the Northwest Territories is shocking with the mass evacuation, and our hearts are with the people who are leaving and trying to evacuate the Northwest Territories. And as an agency, our hearts and our thoughts are also with the responders who are staying behind, trying to protect those communities, as we've seen throughout BC for the course of the last 2 months, and we'll see for the next number of weeks ahead. Today, the messaging is really about the forecast. It is about the weather. As we know, we've been under a ridge of high pressure. That's why we have been so hot and so dry the last number of days. We've been breaking temperature records across the province, primarily in the south, but also in the central and northern parts of BC. You couple that with the extreme drought conditions that we've spoken about on these availabilities over the course of the last number of months, and the conditions out in the forest are very prime to see significant fire growth and to see new fires challenge our suppression efforts. We will see this, what we refer to in BC as a cold front, which is a cold air mass pushing up into the hot air mass that we've been living under for the last number of days. When those two things happen, it creates significant and sustained winds, likely in the 30 to 40 kilometers an hour range, with gusts up to 60 to 70 kilometers an hour. We will also see erratic winds through this event as it sweeps through the province, meaning that the wind direction will change, and what used to be a flank or the base of a fire will become the head of a fire, challenging all of the efforts that we've put in over the course of the last number of weeks to build containment lines, to use planned ignitions to secure the lines. And today and tomorrow we'll really see the success of those efforts. This cold air mass is going to start in the northern part of the province, as I said, right now. It's going to sweep through the Caribou as we approach the afternoon, and eventually making its way to the coast, the Kamloops, and the Southeast fire centers early this evening, pushing through the evening. The other significant challenge with this forecast is that it is forecast to come with lightning. As we know, lightning is our primary ignition source for new fires, has been for the predominant part of this fire season, and we are anticipating a significant number of new fires across the province of BC. And obviously, we're already dealing with a significant amount of fires already on the land base. What these winds, coupled with the dryness of the fuels, will do in the next 24 hours on our existing fires, as I said, it will challenge our control lines. We are expecting to see growth on those fires in the next 24 hours, including through the entire evening tonight into Friday morning. For new starts, what this means is we'll have the potential to see lots of new fires across BC, and those fires will challenge even our air tanker and helicopter resources and our ground resources, as we are likely to see a number of new fires happening across the province. Again, this is a significant forecasted weather event for BC. Just to conclude, and I'm happy, and I'm sure there's lots of questions, just to conclude, we have seen the devastating impacts of fires in BC over the course of this year, as well as many years in the past. We're now more recently being reminded of some of those impacts with what happened in Hawaii and what's currently happening in the Northwest Territories, inclusive of what's been happening in BC and some of our communities in BC over the course of the last 3 months. This weather event has the potential to be the most challenging 24 to 48 hours of the summer from a fire perspective. We are expecting significant growth, and we are expecting our resources to be challenged from north to south in the province over the next 48 hours. What we are doing in preparation, we have had resource utilization movement across the province. We have seen resources move, as Minister Ralston said. We also have requested additional resources, as we have been all summer. We do have more resources coming tomorrow, as well as into next week, to try to offset the potential of these new fire starts. As Minister Mah will likely discuss right after this, now, if ever there was a time to make sure you have an evacuation plan for your house and your family, it's now. If ever there was a time to make sure you had a grab-and-go bag, it is now. We recognize that across the province, at times, people have not adhered to evacuation orders. I want to stress, now is not the time to not adhere to evacuation orders and alerts. The weather is going to be erratic and significant. At least it is forecast to be. Please listen to your local governments and provincial officials when there is an evacuation order. We urge you to please leave. We will try to get you home as soon as we can as this weather system passes. And finally, I just want to say that I issue a thank you to British Columbians. This is going to be a significant 48 hours, but your heartfelt kindness towards our first responders, towards the thousands of people that we have out there across the province, working diligently to suppress these fires, working diligently to ensure that we don't have impacts to life and property. Your kindness is felt, and it means more than you know to the people of BC Wildfire Service and all the support agencies that are stepping up to support the response effort this year. It's going to be a challenging 48 hours for BC as it pertains to fire. But like everything, and as BC has shown time and time again, we will get through it, and we can get through it by showing respect to one another, checking in on your neighbor, and making sure that you make space for first responders to come and do what they need to do to protect your life and property. Happy to take questions, but for now, I'll put it back to Minister Mah to complete the briefing.
Thank you so much, Cliff, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us again today. My name is Bowen Ma, Minister of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, here joining you from the territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. Before I begin, I too would like to acknowledge the heartbreaking situation in the Northwest Territories right now. In BC, many people are familiar with the stress that comes with wildfires, with smoke, and with the evacuation orders. To people from the Northwest Territories and throughout the North, our thoughts are with you during this difficult time. BC stands ready to help, just as other provinces have assisted us in times of need. And I want to emphasize the situation is extremely dynamic. The Northwest Territories has requested assistance from BC and Alberta with evacuating healthcare patients. And at this time, British Columbia is expected to receive approximately 55 hospital patients and care home residents, with potentially more to come. They are expected to arrive through the Vancouver Airport, and BC Emergency Health Services and Health Emergency Management British Columbia are coordinating supports for patients as they arrive through YVR. While the majority of evacuees from the territory will be going to Alberta and other Western provinces, we are also preparing to receive some evacuees as well if needed. BC stands ready to provide further assistance to the Northwest Territories. At the same time, we are not letting up on our own wildfire season here in British Columbia, and we are preparing for what may be difficult days ahead, and we're ensuring that we have the resources to support people here in BC. As of this morning, there are approximately 480 people under evacuation order in BC and over 4,900 people on evacuation alert. I want to underscore that we are very concerned about the developing wildfire situation here in BC. As Cliff has mentioned, the conditions we are expecting, dry lightning and strong shifting winds, may lead to extreme fire behavior. BC Wildfire Service crews are working diligently to secure fire guards on active wildfires, doing planned ignition operations and ensuring that active perimeters of fire are out. This expected strong winds means that wildfire can move and change direction exceptionally fast. We are urging people to stay calm, to be alert, and to be prepared. If you are placed under an evacuation order, you must leave the area immediately. I understand that it is incredibly difficult to leave your home and your community and everything that you know, the places you love and seek comfort in during challenging times. But I want to emphasize that an evacuation order is not the time to wait and see, especially not under the conditions that are being forecasted. Please be prepared now. Have an emergency plan and a grab-and-go kit ready for you, your family, and your pets. Your First Nation or local authority will provide information on evacuation routes and evacuation reception centers where you can access emergency support services if you require it. Emergency support services, including accommodations, are available to those who do not have a place to stay if they are under evacuation. However, I do encourage people who live in high-risk areas to reach out to family and friends who may be able to provide shelter in other areas of the province. Make those arrangements now as part of your emergency plan. We are in peak tourism season and there is limited availability at hotels and motels, and we continue to assess capacity for group lodging, and we are proactively opening evacuation spaces across the province. This includes the temporary evacuee accommodations for 300 people being opened in partnership with Tecumloops to Shewetmuk in the Raylay neighborhood of Kamloops. By staying with family and friends, however, you're helping fellow evacuees who may not have that option, and you are helping our emergency response teams on the ground. Now, during summer, it is quite common for communities and landowners to host music festivals and events. The hot, dry temperatures mixed with forecasted dry lightning has increased the risk of wildfires throughout much of British Columbia. At this time, I want to emphasize how important it is for event and music festival organizers to have an emergency plan in place and to work closely with First Nations and local authorities in planning their events. It is incredibly important that local authorities not be surprised by the presence of hundreds or thousands of additional visitors in their region during an emergency situation. Keeping an open channel of communication with your local authority will help emergency management personnel and wildfire personnel swiftly respond if there is an emergency and keep people safe. We saw an example of this last week when a wildfire near Princeton quickly grew and threatened nearly 1,000 participants of a music festival near Colmont. The RCMP and local fire department executed a tactical evacuation of the music festival due to the Rice Road wildfire. And while everyone in the area was safely evacuated, this underscores the importance of being prepared. And this weekend, another music festival called Music on the Mountain was planned to be held at Murray Ridge Ski Area, north of Fort St. James. As a precaution, the organizers decided to relocate the event to Fort St. James due to the nearby Great Beaver Lake fire. I know people and organizations that plan annual music festivals know the dangers that wildfires can pose to their participants, and I would like to thank them for being agile and putting people's safety as their first priority. For anyone traveling, going into the backcountry or to a remote location, please look at emergencybc.ca for possible evacuation alerts or orders in that area. Study the BC Wildfire Service app, share your travel plans with a friend or family member, and create an evacuation plan in case you are directed or asked to leave. Please visit adventuresmart.ca for more information on how to safely plan a trip into the backcountry. Before I turn it back to Minister Ralston, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the high temperatures we experienced across the province over the last several days. These high temperatures are stressful and a risk, particularly for people who are vulnerable. And I'd like to thank everyone who has taken the time to check on a loved one. Keeping in touch with friends, relatives, neighbors, particularly if they're older or vulnerable to heat, is extremely important. I also want to thank the many First Nations and local governments that took proactive steps this week by opening cooling centers to keep people safe and communicating with their residents about how they can stay safe. Incremental costs associated with establishing and running these cooling centers will be reimbursed by the province. High temperatures are becoming more common in BC due to climate change. In recent years, we have been funding communities to boost their preparation for extreme temperatures, and this week we announced yet another round of funding that will be used by local governments and First Nations to improve their knowledge of the risks associated with extreme temperatures to protect people. As a number of heat warnings have now been lifted and the weather is forecasted to slightly cool over the next several days, we now face forecasts that will have considerable impacts on wildfire. So let's continue to be alert. Let's continue to be prepared. Connect with family and friends. Make your grab-and-go kit. Your government is prepared to respond to the challenges that we may have to support you and your family. We ask you to be prepared as well. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to Minister Ralston to provide an update on drought.
Great. Thank you very much, Minister Ma. As of this morning, 28 of BC's 34 water basins continue to be at level 4 or 5, and it's a scale of 0 to 5, and 5 is the highest. More watersheds are moving from level 4 up to level 5, the highest classification possible. So the drought situation is serious in British Columbia, there's no doubt about that. And the impacts of drought conditions in certain BC watersheds will be serious as well. We're closely monitoring stream and river flows and taking regulatory action as needed. Protecting water is vital for people, communities, First Nations, as well as fish and wildlife who depend upon our rivers. The drought conditions in Bassett Creek and Salmon River, both which feed into Shuswap Lake near Salmon Arm, are especially concerning. Drought conditions in these rivers are putting trout and salmon species, including the endangered Thompson River Chinook, at risk. Chinook need to migrate and return to the river for the spawning season in the coming weeks. That's why yesterday I issued a fish population protection order for both Bassett Creek and the Lower Salmon River area. That's under the Water Sustainability Act. The aim of these orders is to help restore water flow levels enough to protect the salmon run. It means that ground and surface water users in each area will no longer be able to irrigate water-intensive forage crops, including grass for hay, alfalfa, and forage corn. However, I want to stress, water will still be available for people, livestock, fruit crops, and market vegetables. We recognize the impact this has on farmers, business owners, and industrial water users. These decisions are always made as an absolute last resort because we recognize the very real impact this has had on farmers and their businesses. We have in place programs for farmers impacted by drought, such as the Federal Provincial Agri-Stability Program, which offers assistance with the cost of hay and feed, and the new Access to Feed program, which connects farmers in need of hay to those selling it. Our message to the agricultural community is this: we are taking this seriously. We have the tools in place to help now, and we will keep listening and working with you. I'd also like to note that in advance of these orders, ministry staff asked water licensees in each watershed to conserve water voluntarily. And I want to thank everyone who pulled together during this challenging time and voluntarily reduced their water use. It's because of collective efforts like that, working together as a community, that we have been able to delay these actions until now. As I said, protection orders are only taken when absolutely necessary because we know they impact farming businesses. We are continuously monitoring impacted waterways for rain and water flows, and the orders can be revoked if we see enough rain that allows the water flows to recover. As the extreme drought conditions continue, we may see similar challenges in other waterways. In advance of protection orders, ministry staff are working with people and communities on the ground to conserve water voluntarily. Again, thank you to those conserving water. It makes a difference and helps delay the need for protection orders for fish. We continue to call on everyone in British Columbia, including residential and industrial water users, to follow local water restrictions and reduce their water usage. As we head into the final few weeks of August, I know there are a lot of people traveling around the province. Visitors and campers at BC Parks are reminded to conserve water to help protect our natural resources. BC Parks has posted drought advisories on all relevant parks websites for people looking online. They also have information and posters up at parks to minimize in-park water use for both staff operational use and by visitors. Destination BC, the provincial agency, has created a new drought toolkit with suggested actions to help resorts, restaurants, and other tourism industry partners champion water conservation. The Ministry of Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sport has outreach underway to ensure the 8 provincially owned heritage attractions and the mountain resorts around the province are aware of local drought conditions and managing water use appropriately. We all have a part to play to help build a more resilient province, and these actions do make a difference. Water use restrictions are different from community to community, so we're asking people to familiarize themselves with local restrictions and follow the rules in their area. Let's commit together to be mindful of our water use. Water is a precious resource, and British Columbia is fortunate to have some of the best water in the world. Every drop counts. Let me now turn it over to Minister Ma for the question and answer part of our event today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister Ralston. We now have some time for questions, and in addition to myself, Minister Ralston and Cliff Chapman, staff are also available to answer questions, including Connie Chapman, Acting Director of Water Management Branch with the Ministry of Forests, Jonathan Boyd, Hydrologist with the River Forecast Center. We have Peter Brock, Executive Director with the Ministry of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, Mark Raymond, Executive Director with the Agriculture Resource Division of the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, Dr. David McVie, the public health physician with the BC CDC under Environmental Health Services, and of course the Honourable Adrian Dix, Minister of Health as well.
Thank you. A reminder for reporters on the phone to please press *1 to enter the queue. That's *1 to ask a question. For media in the room, please line up at the microphone provided, and please make sure to provide your full name and outlet. Media will be limited to one question and one follow-up. We're going to start in the room today. If anyone has a question, please go ahead.
Yes, hi, Catherine Zip from CBC Radio-Canada. So first of all, from what I'm understanding, we are stretched pretty thin in terms of resources right now to manage the fires around the province, and there's also fires going on in the Northwestern Territories and Hawaii. So I was wondering how you are coordinating these resources because they're asking for help. You also need help. How is this managed among yourselves, and how is it divided? And if anyone can add in French, I would really appreciate it, if you can.
Minister Dix would be very happy to provide maybe some translation in French. First off, this is a challenging time for many jurisdictions right across the world, and our hearts are absolutely with the people of the Northwest Territories. At this time, what we're being requested to provide is support in terms of evacuations. And so we have communicated with our partners in the Northwest Territories that we're able to provide approximately 1,100 spaces in the north to receive evacuations if they require it. They are working with us through Minister Dix's ministry, which he'll be able to speak to a bit more, to receive some hospital patients and care for them as well. BC continues to be very, very grateful for the wildland wildfire support that we are receiving from outside of the province, across Canada and internationally as well. I will say that with the situation in the Northwest Territories, Alberta and Saskatchewan, due to their proximity to the Northwest Territories, will be their primary go-to for support, but BC is assuring them that we will also be there if they need us. We're just a little bit further away from them physically. Cliff, did you have anything that you wanted to add, or Minister Ralston? Go ahead, Cliff. I think you're on mute, though.
Oh. Am I good?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, thank you, Minister Ma. Just from a fire resource perspective, I don't know that I would say that we're stretched thin. From a human resources perspective, it has been a challenge, as we have discussed for most of the summer, not just nationally, but internationally, to get resources. The way that it's managed in Canada is through the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre, which is the national body which all the fire agencies, all the territories and provinces are part of. And it's based on a scale. So if you're in a 1, that means you're not looking for any resources and you're ready to export resources to other agencies, all the way up to a 5. At this point in time, it is us and the Northwest Territories as the only 2 agencies that are in a 5. And that's how CIFC makes decisions when resources come available nationally or internationally. I think it's also worth noting that we have a significant aircraft fleet in BC at this time. We have over 130 helicopters on contract for us. We have a tanker fleet that's in excess of 30 pieces of fixed wing retardant dropping and water dropping aircraft. And so from an aerial perspective, we have as many resources as we've seen in previous bad fire seasons, and they are at the ready to respond. So we do have resource availability. It's not a lot. And obviously, if we get a significant amount of new fires, we will be stretched.
You are listening to a live update from BC officials on the wildfire situation. A few points to note. They say a significant weather system is starting today. It's going to start in the north and sweep south. We are likely to see a significant number of new fires start up in this time. And so officials have put out a rather ominous warning of people to be prepared. They say this will likely be the most challenging 24 to 48 hours of the summer so far. Let's take you back to this live briefing right now.
Aux questions des services de santé, par exemple, on travaille depuis une semaine avec les territoires du Nord-Ouest pour faciliter le soutien des gens qui vont venir, soit des hôpitaux, soit des maisons de soins à long terme. Et on est en train de préparer cela en s'attendre aujourd'hui ou demain 55 gens qui vont venir et qui vont être soutenus ici. Et je pense que ça fait partie d'être une citoyenne du Canada ou du monde. Quand il y a une difficulté ici, on soutient des autres viennent. Et on voit ça, que ce soit de l'Australie ou d'autres provinces. Et on donne ce soutien à d'autres juridictions aussi. Donc il y a un effort commun dans le pays, dans le monde.
Follow-up?
Yes, for the follow-up, yesterday there was First Nations chief, Keith Crow, that mentioned that he didn't have enough warning nor resources when the wildfires came to his community. And I was just wondering what was not done adequately, in your opinion, in terms of communicating with this community about what, some upcoming warning or something, and what could have been done better?
Thank you. I'm familiar with Chief Keith Crow of the Lower Similkameen Band. BC Wildfire Service has worked with him. He's been out on the fire lines, and some of his earlier concerns have been, I think, satisfied. Certainly, it's very important to work with communities, and BC Wildfire Service has an exemplary record of working with local First Nations and local communities to fight the challenges that we all face in this very difficult fire season. Thank you.
For our next question, we're going to stay in the room. Please go ahead.
Hi, Kate Walker, City News. My question kind of goes with the last one, just about alert systems. I'm curious at your confidence level in our alert system here as we head into potentially chaotic 48 hours, given what happened in Hawaii and their system that wasn't as reliable for the people there.
Yeah, so British Columbia, we do have the capacity to issue broadcast intrusive alerts. Those are alerts that go to your phone. They also go to your radio stations. They go to televisions through cable TV. But it is a very useful tool for providing evacuation orders, but it is only one of the many tools that we use. We work very closely with local communities on how best to communicate with their residents. In many cases, particularly in case of an tactical evacuation order, for instance, the best way to communicate those orders to people is actually to physically go door to door. So many communities will have support from the RCMP, or search and rescue volunteers or other responders will actually go through the community door to door to pull people out of their homes. So it does depend on the community very much, but we have a significant system of communication tools available to us, whether it is through the internet, whether it's through broadcast intrusive alerts, whether it is through media, door-to-door communications. We also have the capacity to use licensed amateur radio specialists to help communicate through radio if all telecommunication systems go down. It is this process of constantly finding additional ways to ensure that we have a robust communication system to reach people where they're at. But with that, perhaps, Peter, I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to offer on this.
Yes, hi, I'm Peter Brock, Executive Director, Provincial and Regional Operations for EMCR. Just to add to that, we've provided approximately 20 broadcast intrusive alerts for wildfires this season, and we're always learning and aim to improve, but those have been very effective. Communities have reached out for that support from EMCR to ask for those alerts to be issued. To the minister's point, it's on a case-by-case basis. There's many tools to alert communities, and each individual case has to be looked at on what would be the best or most appropriate approach. So we have a good track record so far this year, and we intend to continue to work really hard at serving communities with that support if required and if requested. So that's my additional. Thank you.
No follow-up? Great. For our next question, we're going to head to the phones. Our first question on the phones is from Richard Zussman, Global News. Please go ahead.
Cliff, this is for you, and anyone else can weigh in. what regions are we looking at here that are under the greatest risk for the next 24 to 48 hours? As you describe it, it sounds like this is covering a huge swath of the province. So are there targeted areas that are at highest risk for what we're going to see over the next 48 hours?
We'll go straight to Cliff.
Really good question. So the uniqueness of this event, and I think why I was stressing it so much in the opening, is that it is province-wide. Obviously, that's not something that we see every summer. That's not something we see every fire season. We have seen it in the past, but very, very irregular. We did see some rebounding conditions in the north, but it's not what it was when those fires were really rolling. So we likely will see some impact in the north, but I would say right now, based on the weather the last number of weeks with the dryness of the south, we're really looking at the highest potential areas of impact, starting the Caribou, central of the province, and then we'll make their way into the Kamloops Fire Center and the Southeast Fire Center. So really looking at that southern half of the province being the most susceptible to this weather, but the north is not out of the woods. The north is not in the clear. So it is really provincially challenging, but to answer your question, I think the highest potential impacts are in the southern half of the province.
Richard, did you have a follow-up?
This is for Minister Dix. What will the impacts be of these patients arriving to the Northwest Territories? Walk me through what it's going to look like and what pressure could it put on our healthcare system as we're bracing here for a potentially challenging 24 to 48 hours.
Thanks for the question, Richard. We've obviously been preparing for this week with our colleagues in the Northwest Territories for a potential evacuation. At this time, we expect, as Mr. Ma has just said, about 55 patients or care home, hospital patients or care home residents to come down. That number may increase, and when they arrive depends on the flights being organized by the Canadian Armed Forces, but it could be later today, it could be overnight to tomorrow. What we're talking about is a mix of long-term care patients, alternate level of care patients, namely patients who are assessed for long-term care but are in hospital in the Northwest Territory, about 22 of those, and 33 hospital patients. That includes pediatric patients, pre- and post-surgical patients, and so on. Staff from Vancouver Coastal, Fraser Health, and Providence Healthcare are preparing for this, have prepared for this. We've already been through the patient charts to assign people. Most of the long-term care patients will go to Mount St. Joseph's and other locations, but mostly Mount St. Joseph's because of space being available at Mount St. Joseph's, so we're ready for that. And the hospital patients will be triaged and assessed at our operations center at YVR as they arrived, and then brought forward. BC Emergency Health Services, obviously very much involved with Health Emergency Management BC in organizing patient transport at this time. Just so you understand, I mean, that is a lot of people on an individual level. It's an extraordinary trip for someone from a hospital or a care home in the Northwest Territories to come down to Vancouver, and very difficult for the staff there, challenging for the staff here, and of course, mostly really challenging for the patients. So we're everybody at all levels is doing everything we can to support them. You'll recall in 2021 in BC, more than 300 patients were transferred to Metro Vancouver from Interior Health at that time, overnight via aircraft. So this is something that, unfortunately, because of extreme weather conditions, we're well prepared for. We've been working, as I say, closely with staff in the Northwest Territories, and we expect to take on and provide supports to both care home residents and to hospital patients. I'd say right now, this week in BC, we have between 9,400 and 9,700, depending on the day, patients in acute care hospitals. So, of course, there are challenges. And we receive every week more than 10,000. We attend more than 10,000 ambulance calls. So these are numbers that we are able to absorb. These are challenging times, of course, but it goes without saying that in this country we support other jurisdictions, just as they support us when they're facing very challenging, very difficult, and really terrible circumstances.
Our next question is from Wolf Dubner, Black Press. Please go ahead. Wolf, are you there? Okay, we'll move on down the queue then. Our next question is going to go to Sydney Chisholm.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, hang on. We've got Wolf back.
Hello?
Please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, this is sort of a regional. A lot of the new fires that are threatening communities are in the South Okanagan, Central Okanagan, Snoqualmie. What, if any, specific measures is to help fight fires there, and what, if any, specific measures are in place to help help some of the people who have had to evacuate?
All right, we'll go to Cliff Chapman.
Appreciate the question. It was a little bit muffled, but I think I got the gist of it in terms of what are we doing from a response perspective to support Central and South Okanagan, where many of our fires are currently sort of exhibiting extreme fire behavior. This is something that we do not just on a daily basis, but really on an hourly basis. Really look at what's on the landscape across the province, work with the regional centers to strategically allocate resources to the highest needs. Based on these steps, which Peter can speak to after, but based on protecting life and property, critical infrastructure, et cetera. So we're doing that hourly. We're doing that based on the forecast that I shared earlier, but also what's happening on the ground and what's happening with each of our fires, as we're already starting to see some fire behavior pick up in those areas that you just referenced. And so we're seeing our aircraft now going to those incidents and working amongst that complex of a number of fires that are in that Central and South Okanagan. Peter?
Yeah, thanks. Peter Brock, Executive Director, Provincial Regional Operations for EMCR. So for the question on what supports are available for potential evacuees, if I got the question right, just want to reiterate that we have reception centers throughout the region that are on standby and ready to support. So communities are well aware of the current situation, have stood up reception centers to be on standby for that potential. And just as an example, there's reception centers on standby in Kelowna, Lillooet Regional District of Okanagan, Snoqualmie, Regional Districts, Columbia, Shuswap, and Central Okanagan as well. And that's just to ensure that we can support evacuees if required. There's also the group lodging that the minister spoke to, of course, that we have stood up and partnered with many throughout the province on. I just want to reiterate that it's really important for the public to understand that those types of options for supporting evacuees, it's for those that need it most. And so we are continuing to work hard at ensuring that we can support those evacuees that need additional supports from the potential of evacuating from wildfire, but just can't overemphasize enough the need to really follow that recommendation to save friends and families to ensure we don't put additional burden on the system for those that have other options. So there's lots of preparedness and planning occurring, and we just want to keep reiterating to the public to stay with friends and family, try to leave those services open to those that need it most, and know that if you are billeting or staying with friends and family, there are also per diems and supports available through emergency support services if you choose that option. So there's incentives to do that, and we just want to ensure that we continue to support anyone that we can. Thank you.
Thanks.
Wolf, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you. 2003, 2017, those are sort of like the signature years, forgive the term, when it comes to activity in British Columbia. In retrospect, or sort of predicting already, if you wish, how would you sort of rate this year? How would you sort of contextualize this year compared to those other years when we saw the Okanagan Mountain wildfire, the 2017 event? Can you sort of contextualize? Can you sort of give the historical perspective to this year as to how difficult it has been?
Thanks very much for your question. Certainly, after 2003, the government of the day engaged former Premier Gary Filmon to prepare a report about a better fire response. After 2017, again, the former Cabinet Minister George Abbott and Chief Chapman prepared a report which gave further recommendations about how to respond to wildfire here in British Columbia. So the response is not static. The Wildfire Service has continued to learn from each season and develop better tools to respond and to keep people safe, people and properties safe. So in terms of the comparisons, generally what, and I'll turn it over to Cliff shortly, but generally what we are advised is that this year is one of the most difficult fire seasons we've ever experienced, and if not the most difficult, certainly in terms of area of the province that's been burned. But each fire season, I think, holds its own challenges, and I wouldn't want to minimize the challenge that people experienced in previous fire seasons either. So, but it's a very tough fire season this year, yes. Cliff, I don't know whether you wanted to add your perspective.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you for the question. I just want to start by acknowledging the loss that we've experienced in BC and BC Wildfire Service this year with the tragic passing of Zach Muse and Devin Gale over the course of this fire season. And so what I would say from that perspective is this season has felt extremely heavy for the organization, as we've also continued to see significant fire on the landscape that we continue to respond to protect BC and the communities of BC. We really, in terms of statistics, this season is going to be one of, if not the worst fire season on record in BC. Hectares burned, obviously being one of the primary statistics. I think it's worth noting, again, that many of those hectares, I think just under 1 million of the hectares that have burned, were in the Prince George Fire Centre starting earlier in the year. Now we're seeing the shift to the southern part of the province while we continue to have fires in the north. So from a hectares perspective, we've already broken the record. From a number of fires perspective, I think this next 48 hours may see us pushing closer to the number of fires on the landscape record. But really, I think it's best to wait until after the season. And really, it's looking at it through different variables. Those communities that have been impacted for the course of the last 3 months, whether they're big, small, First Nation community, local government community, they feel the impacts. And to them, it probably is the worst fire season on record. So it is a challenging question to answer, but happy as the season comes to a close, when it comes to a close, to really assess the statistics and look at how this season stacks up against 2003, 2017, 2018, and 2021, which are 4 of our worst seasons on record.
For our next question, we're going to Sydney Chisholm, CFJC News Kamloops.
Hi, I'm hoping to speak with Chapman about the Noble Creek irrigation system.
Sure, that's Connie Chapman. Do you have your question?
I'm wondering about what the province is doing for that. We know that the city of Kamloops has said that they are trying to work with the province. I'm just hoping for an update there. Are you guys aware of the situation and what is being done?
Sure, we'll start with Minister Ralston, actually.
Thank you. Yes, the Noble Creek irrigation system is within the municipal boundaries of the city of Kamloops. It's to the north of the center of the city. And it really is within the jurisdiction of the city of Kamloops. There are some provincial aspects to it that the Ministry of Forests administers. So we are working with the city of Kamloops to attempt to resolve the challenges there. And I'm advised that that work is going well.
And Sydney, did you have a follow-up?
We had heard, that a lot of the problem was coming from the provincial government with riprap and things that had to be handled through the Ministry of Forests. So I'm just wondering on if we're hitting roadblocks here, is the city confused? Why is this municipal jurisdiction there?
Just to deal first with the riprap question, the province has committed to place the riprap in the way that's been discussed with the city of Kamloops. So I think that issue is resolved. These are issues that we're working through, and people of goodwill will resolve them, and that's, I think, what we have, two willing partners who will solve this issue. Thank you.
I think we're going to Connie Chapman for a follow-up. Connie, did you have something to add?
No, Minister Ralston covered it all. Thank you.
All right, for our next question, we're going to go to Rob Buffum, CTV Vancouver Island. Please go ahead.
Oh, thanks for taking my question. And it's for Cliff Chapman. I'm wondering, you mentioned earlier that this problem anticipated in the next 24 to 48 hours is a province-wide problem. I'm wondering if you can speak to whether that includes Vancouver Island and what you expect here. Do you think that there might be some significant fire issues over that time period on Vancouver Island?
Go ahead, Cliff.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So with this event, there is potential we will see the winds on Vancouver Island. We will potentially see lightning, although the forecast is not indicating that the island is going to get significantly hit with lightning, although I think British Columbians on the island, as well as our organization, are preparing as if it may. I'd say the longer term challenge for Vancouver Island and even the inland coast is that this is still, we're not going to see significant rain with this event. And through the weekend, there is what we call a subtropical feed coming up from the USA that is going to potentially bring strikes on Saturday and Sunday to the lower portion of the island into the mainland of Vancouver and proper, as well as to the southeastern Kamloops Fire Center. So we've been focusing on the next 24 to 48 hours with the wind and lightning event. But for the island and for the southeastern Kamloops, it's also longer than that because we are anticipating that subtropical feed bringing more lightning, again with very little or no precipitation to the southern parts of all of BC, inclusive of the island, Saturday and Sunday this weekend.
Rob, did you have a follow-up?
I do, and it's for Minister Maas as well as perhaps Mr. Chapman. I'm just wondering, I wanted to be clear, when BC's talked about, and Premier Eby tweeted about this earlier, providing whatever help we could sort of thing to us territories, given our constraints and the concerns here over the next 2 days, I wanted to confirm, is it likely at all or even on the table that we might offer firefighters there? You mentioned 130 helicopters that could be available, and I'm assuming that would be to help in the Northwest Territories. But I guess the question is, apart from accepting evacuees as well as patients, are we going to provide any firefighters now or in the coming days in the Northwest Territories, or are they needed here?
I think it's important that Canadians support one another no matter where they are in the country, and different provinces will have different capacities to provide different types of support. So we're always assessing our internal capacity, our resources, what we need to keep British Columbians safe and well supported here, and establishing what it is that we can provide to other jurisdictions when they are in need. At this time, we have agreed, or we have offered some evacuation spaces if required. We are accepting some patients from them. Minister Dix had spoken about that earlier. BC is in a state of receiving out of province wildland firefighter support, and so I think it makes very little sense to be receiving outside of province support and also exporting wildland firefighter support. But maybe I'll pass it over to Cliff Chapman to see if he has any projections for where we might be headed, unless Mr. Ralston wanted to add anything further.
Thank you, Minister Ma. I think you have covered it. I think the short answer to your question is not at this time. Will we be sending response resources to Northwest Territories? We have significant fire on the landscape that we are actively working and have been actively working 24 hours a day for the last number of weeks. And our anticipation is that that is going to continue for the next couple of weeks ahead. We still do not see any rain, significant rain in the forecast. We will see a drop in temperatures with this passing cold front. So we will not see record temperatures the way we have been seeing, but we are not going to see rain. So we are going to continue to need resources in BC to continue to protect the homes and properties across the province, at least for the foreseeable number of days. Obviously, as Minister Ma covered, if our weather changes, we'll certainly look to support other agencies that have been really supporting BC for the better part of the last 3 months.
We have time for one more question. Our final question today goes to Gordon Hoekstra, Vancouver Sun. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. I'm just wondering, can you say how many firefighters are on the job right now? And I believe that you mentioned some international firefighters are leaving, and how many is that? And some more are coming back. Just give me some numbers on those kinds of things, and whether that is enough, or do you have an ask for, how many more firefighters that you need?
We're going to go over to Cliff. Do you have those numbers with you?
Yeah, I do, and we can follow up too, just to make sure that I confirm them properly, but I will read what I have in front of me. So right now in BC, we have 3,400 people engaged in fire response across the province. That is a slight drop from last week's numbers, primarily due to the fact that a lot of our international resources have expired. Thankfully, and thank you to those countries and those agencies, they did extend them for us once or twice in some cases so that we could keep them for an additional month in some cases. But now those agencies are starting to experience their own pressure when it comes to their fire seasons. And so they've gone home, and right now it's been a little bit more challenging to get commitments from those international countries to continue to come and support BC. Saying that, we still have just under 200 Mexican firefighters in the province. We have another order in and have confirmed that order to see another additional 100 firefighters from Mexico into next week. And we have outstanding requests through CBC for additional support resources, firefighters on the ground. Those requests have not been answered at this time, but we continue to push CBC to see if they can free up resources, just as Northwest Territories is doing. And we are the two primary agencies across Canada right now. We have 14 Australians still in the country. We have 102 Brazilians still in the country. And we have 102 Costa Ricans still in the country. And that's in addition, and it's worth noting, to all of the contract resources that are supporting BC in this suppression effort this year. Upwards of 1,000 contractors, whether that be heavy equipment, contract firefighting, First Nation firefighting crews, and beyond, including structural fire departments from municipal fire departments. So we have seen a massive surge of support from inside of BC as well as outside of BC, and we expect that to continue for the next few weeks.
Gordon, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, the West Kelowna, there's a fire just west of West Kelowna, and I know that there's a significant amount of people on evacuation alert. I think that's the bulk of the evacuation alerts right now in the province. What's the status of the situation there currently, and what this weather that's forecast in the next 48 hours, what does it mean for that fire there?
Yeah, so thank you so much for that question. You're right. As a result of the McDougall wildfire, we have 3 communities west of Kelowna that are on evacuation alert. That includes some properties within Central Okanagan Regional District, West Kelowna, as well as West Bank First Nations. At this time, there are approximately 4,800 properties on evacuation alert. We're working with nearby communities, in particular Kelowna, to stand up an emergency evacuation reception center just in case. That being said, BC Wildfire Service has significant resources on that fire. It is our hope that we don't have to recommend that the communities go to an evacuation order, but of course we're also asking everyone to be prepared now. And so if you are on evacuation alert in those areas, please establish your grab and go bag, your emergency kit, reach out to family and friends about potentially staying with them if they are in other safer areas of the province. And we are doing that pre-planning work to process evacuees if necessary. But Cliff, I know that you'll probably be able to speak more to the specific wildfire resources that are assigned to that fire.
Yeah, thanks for the question. This is an emerging incident for BC and for BC Wildfire Service. We have had, significant resources on this fire, the McDougall fire that's just outside of West Kelowna. That fire is estimated right now at just over 250 hectares. We are seeing extreme fire behavior on that fire as of 7 o'clock this morning. Again, it just indicates the conditions that the forests are in right now, how dry it is up there. We rarely see that type of fire behavior, pre-breakfast time in BC, and we're seeing it today, and we're going to see it continue through today. We have air tankers on that fire currently right now. I would imagine they will be flying it all day today to try to contain that fire where it is, but it is going to be a challenging fire for our organization. Suppression efforts will be tested when the winds hit this afternoon. And as Minister Ma stated, for the people who live in that area, please be ready for the evacuation alert to potentially become an order over the course of today, tomorrow, or even into the future.
And that's all the time we have for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
You've got a follow-up question, Adrian.
Joining us on BC Today, I'm Tanya Fletcher in for Michelle Elliott. Well, BC is bracing for a significant and challenging change in the wildfire situation, and it's all because of the weather. Fire officials in the province have just wrapped up a briefing, and the forecast is about to deal a 1-2 punch. This week's heat wave is about to be followed by a cold front on the horizon. It's going to bring gusty winds and dry lightning to regions that are tinder dry already. We have reporters standing by in the hotspot regions as well as Vancouver's airport, where hospital patients are being evacuated out of Yellowknife and are set to arrive here this hour. And thank you for joining us on CBC Radio 1 and live streaming on CBC Gem, cbc.ca/BC, and on the CBC Vancouver YouTube page. And for those of you who've been streaming with us for the past hour, you've just been watching that live update from the provincial government and BC fire officials. Well, a couple of new fires flared up this week, including one near Kelowna. And joining me live now from the Okanagan is CBC reporter Brady Strachan. Hello to you, Brady.
Hi, Tanya.
So first of all, recap for us how quickly this fire became a threat the other night and how the evacuations were handled, especially with that shelter-in-place order that was issued.
Yeah, Tanya, this all happened on Tuesday, and that it got to, close to 38 degrees here in the southern interior. And this was actually two fires in the Kelowna area that had been burning for several weeks now in sort of remote areas. But with all that intense heat and some wind in the area, those fires expanded in size tenfold, literally increasing 10 times in size, joining to one major fire. And so what happened is they encroached upon a road that's the only way in and out of Cathedral Provincial Park. That's where a number of tourists staying at a lodge, hikers and campers were staying, and as the evacuation order came, they were given an order to shelter in place, as the only way out was through the fire zone. So we spoke to some people who were in there waiting to hear from officials on the next steps. That was early Wednesday morning. And Wednesday afternoon, officials were able to bus everybody out, about 70 people that went through the fire zone out on that road to safety. So a pretty dramatic situation for those people who spent the night with a fire raging nearby, just being told by officials that they needed to shelter in place and wait for the morning.
Yeah, no doubt. And we do have one of those evacuees standing by we'll chat with in a few minutes. But I know you talked about this well as in your reporting that some have voiced concerns that these evacuation alerts and orders perhaps should have come down sooner. And we do have a clip of Chief Keith Crow with the Lower Similkameen Indian Band. Let's hear what he had to say about it.
We're seeing a lot of similarities to the 2018 Snowy Mountain fire, where the decision to leave it and let it burn, and then we run into a situation where we're doing evacuation orders and, state of emergency evacuation order alerts all within an hour. It drives me, I'm very frustrated with this process about the decision to let things just go on their own. I was just up on site and noticed there's no helicopters again. I was told that there's other emergency fires in BC, which I understand. I don't want to see anyone get hurt or anything like that, but on the other side, I got to speak up for my community and the people in this valley. Of here we are again. We went from 1,000 to 10,000 hectares in one day, so 10 times in a day. I called 2 weeks ago and asked questions about where are we at, what's going on, what's the process, how are decisions being made. We're not being given answers. So now here we are. We evacuated 36 homes. We put the evacuation order in place for 36 homes, roughly about 75 people. We did have some people who chose to stay. Okay, but when are we going to get to the point of we're going to start taking care of these fires and really looking at, and who makes these decisions? I really want to know who made the decision.
So those are the chief's concerns. We just put them directly to provincial officials in the update just moments ago. Here's the response from Forest Minister Bruce Ralston.
I'm familiar with Chief Keith Crow of the Lower Similkameen Band. BC Wildfire Service has worked with him. He's been out on the fire lines, and some of his earlier concerns have been, I think, satisfied. Certainly, it's very important to work with communities, and BC Wildfire Service has an exemplary record of working with local First Nations and local communities to fight the challenges that we all face in this very difficult fire season.
So let's go back to Brady Strachan now, who's in the Okanagan. Brady, those are just some of the dynamics playing out where you are. Let's shift our attention to the forecast now. As we just heard in that update, they've just said southern BC will likely be the highest risk area to watch for, likely because we've been in the midst of this heat warning for days now. It is so dry. So what is the situation in the Okanagan right now as far as fires?
Yeah, Tanya, I don't know how much you can see behind me. It's pretty hazy here, but if you look out, there's a massive plume of smoke behind that haze that's going up into the sky. The camera's, of course, looking over at West Kelowna, where people woke up this morning to find out that many of them are on an evacuation alert because of a fire that's raging about 10 kilometers from this community here. It's behind the hills here, and as the heat comes up and this haze from the smoke kind of dissipates, we can really see just how much smoke is pushing up into the sky there. We're expecting, again, temperatures in the high 30s here. And then, as you mentioned, a shift in the weather patterns that may bring a lot of wind. So that certainly has people here on heightened alert, wondering if that fire will push towards the community. They've got a very large, wide evacuation alert area in the West Kelowna area. And so people have been told to pack their go bags to get all their important documents, because we don't know what's going to come with this weather, but because it's so hot and it's been so dry here, there is a certain risk that things could escalate in places like West Kelowna.
No doubt, Brady. And officials just said province-wide we have about 480 properties currently on evacuation order and upwards of 4,900, around 5,000 on evacuation alert. I know a lot of those are kind of in your area there. So that is something we will continue to watch. Brady, thank you so much. And we can see that smoke behind you. Hopefully that certainly clears up. I know air quality is a big concern as well. So thank you for this. We'll check in with you again soon.
All right. Thank you, Tanya.
Now, as mentioned, 147 wildfires continue to burn out of control across this province right now. But as the government gears up for a dry cold front that could bring dry lightning and gusty winds, it is a very fluid situation, and we need to find out what that means and what people should expect. So to explain more on that, we have climate reporter Darius Madavi joining me now. So Darius, we heard this update from officials. It was rather ominous. They are expecting it to be bad, simply put. And it sounds like it's exactly the perfect storm, literal perfect storm. We've had the dry weather, the hot conditions. Now this cold front, I understand, is going to bring dry lightning and gusty winds. So take us through what that all means and how it will unfold.
That's exactly right. So let's set the scene. For the last week, we've had these really hot, dry conditions throughout the southern interior. Last week, we got lots of rain through parts of the all of the province pretty much, and that brought our fire danger down. We've seen it skyrocket back up, so we're at high or extreme fire danger through much of the southern interior once again. So as that cold front moves through, right now it's sitting just around Prince George in the central interior. By tonight it'll have moved down over the Columbias, more or less. So we're looking at tonight some thunderstorm risk over the Columbias and into parts of the Caribou, and then that cold front is going to keep moving down tomorrow. That's when we see our temperatures come down, and on the surface, it seems like it would be good news because the cooler temperatures should bring fire danger down. But as you said, unfortunately, that cold front is also going to be pushing that warm air higher up into the atmosphere, and that's going to be driving lots of instability that could drive really strong winds. We're talking gusts of up to 60 kilometers an hour. It could drive dry lightning. We will probably see some showers, especially in the southeast. So I'm thinking around the Columbias and down into parts of the Kootenays. But for the most part, it's going to be that instability, bringing that possibility of lightning everywhere from Kelowna and the Okanagan to the Thompson to the Kootenays. And that is going to be driving a lot of fire activity in terms of those winds and the possibility of fire starts because of that lightning. So it's, as you said, a perfect storm.
Yeah, and it was interesting. The fire official said this will likely be the most challenging 24 to 48 hours of the summer wildfire season yet. So they certainly are expecting some dramatic implications. And I'm glad you brought that up because at first blush, people might think, oh, a cold front, how is that not good news if there's rain and cooler temperatures? But it's those winds, it's the dry lightning combined with the heat and the dryness. So what should people be looking out for as this weather pattern progresses and we move past that, say, in the next few days into the weekend?
Right. So when we think about fire danger and fire risk, fire activity, we usually think about heat, winds, humidity. Those are the main factors that can drive that fire activity. Oh, and precipitation, of course. But it doesn't have to all come at once. That heat that we've had has dried out those fuels, which are really what we're concerned about with fire danger. So we have the perfect setup. We haven't been seeing those winds as much because of the high pressure system. We've had some humidity, but it looks like as that cold front moves in, it's going to bring the winds that we need. So just because it's not all happening at once, it doesn't mean it's not going to be a pretty serious situation. Now, as that cold front moves through, tomorrow temperatures drop to pretty much just below seasonal most places in the southern interior. Temperatures will come back up to around the 30s in most places over the weekend. So temperatures do come back. Winds should come down for the most part into Sunday, but the gusts of those really strong winds will continue. They're starting around now, actually. We'd expect strong winds to start and will continue into probably early Saturday. So definitely a developing situation.
The weather, the biggest factor with these wildfires right now. Thank you. That's Darius Madavi, our climate reporter, joining us live here in studio. Well, as we heard, that the situation in the Northwest Territories with Yellowknife is extraordinary right now. And yes, firefighters around the province are being challenged today with a shift in the weather. This hot, dry weather is being replaced by a cold front, but with that comes the likelihood of more lightning. So let's go live now. I think we've got our reporter standing by at the airport. Nope, that is incorrect. Let's go to a different guest first. Let's bring it back to BC here. All of this as more than 4,800 properties are on evacuation alert. This is in the West Kelowna area due to the McDougall Creek wildfire. And in the southern interior as well, a dozen properties are on evacuation order, 74 others on alert because of the Crater Creek wildfire. That's the one that merged that Brady was talking about southwest of Kiramias. Now, meanwhile, residents of Yellowknife are facing long distances and potential shortages of hotel rooms and gas as they're being evacuated to Alberta and other western provinces primarily. And in the back of everyone's mind, the terrible toll of the wildfires on Maui has left many questions about how and when authorities are getting fire information out to the public. So with this unprecedented fire season underway, we're asking you if you feel informed enough about the risk and how would you like to receive alerts and warnings? Are you confident in the province's system? Call us at 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, star or pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. Now, our next guest is Michael Mehta. He's professor of environmental studies at Thompson Rivers University. So, Professor, let's get right to it. What has the communication been like for British Columbians in terms of receiving information about wildfires that are potentially threatening their area?
Hi, Tanya. So this summer has been unprecedented, as we've said, in many different ways. And it's pretty clear to me that it's a stress test, not only of our firefighting capacity, but of also our capacity to communicate, as you've alluded to. BC Wildfire Service knows that they have had historically a problem communicating with various kinds of publics for years. And in 2020, our team here at TRU wrote a report at their request to basically do an autopsy of their communication practices. And some of the things that we recommended, like, for example, working with local communities more effectively, I don't believe have been followed through. So I think there's still some pretty big gaps.
Can you expand on that a little bit? Not followed through. Can you give us specifics of what you're referring to there?
Well, we noticed that throughout the years that the capacity to fight fires and to basically deal with them at a local level, it really depends a lot upon the community and their knowledge of that area. And of course, a lot of communities, especially rural, remote, Indigenous communities, have some capacity to deal with these things. They have equipment. Some other people are also trained as volunteer firefighters, but they're not usually allowed to mobilize and to fight fires. And that is a problem, because when you have hundreds of them, and of course the resources are then spread across the entire province and across BC Wildfire Service, you do have this problem of fires growing exponentially over time, as was mentioned earlier, without an adequate response. So being able to use these people when you can and to make sure they're trained and adequately provisioned throughout the year is probably our best bet.
I understand that communities in BC can differ dramatically with respect to their emergency communications needs and how that is executed. Tell us a little bit about how that is done in its current state.
It's still pretty prehistoric in some ways. In a lot of smaller communities, there's a heavy reliance upon door-to-door knocking by RCMP firefighters, volunteers, and others to alert people to evacuate. A lot of these communities are not well served by infrastructure like internet, high-speed internet in particular. And we also know, like we saw with Maui, that some of these fires actually knocked down cell towers and electrical infrastructure, making a reliance on information technology challenging. What's really, I think, changing is that we're moving towards more of a hybrid approach. You'll see the emergence of some of these apps. A lot of these communities, including bigger cities, use apps like Voyant Alert to provide people with up-to-date information. But again, the vulnerabilities are still there that I just mentioned.
Okay, thank you for that. We're going to come back to you. I do have some more questions on that, but let's take a moment now to check in with someone who has just experienced being evacuated yesterday from the Crater Creek wildfire near Keremeos. Actually, I'm going to get you to hang on here, Professor. Apparently, we're still getting that guest connected here. So let's go back to what we were just talking about. I want to ask you more about kind of the piecemeal approach, perhaps, and how a lot of these seems to be district by district. So is there a way around that? And should there be perhaps a broader sweeping process or protocol in place when these evacuation alerts and, more importantly, orders need to take effect?
Well, there's a tension between having a sort of a generalized universal approach and one that's custom designed to work at the community level. Because fires themselves, as we know, are very chaotic or random in their behavior, or they seem to be. They can change direction, they can change speed of growth very quickly. And they can overwhelm the current state of information. We saw that happen here very recently near Kamloops in the East Adams Lake region, where a wildfire blew up very rapidly with almost no alerting or warning of the community, because BC Wildfire, and they admitted this, didn't adequately understand or anticipate the change in the wind direction. They felt that they didn't have the right information. So it just overwhelmed that community. So we need a combination of the two. We need this sort of universal approach for mobilizing resources for firefighting, as we've seen, but we also need this more local communication that is very specific to that community.
Okay, and so what going forward do you think needs to be done better? I mean, I just want to recap what the minister said in the briefing, because this was asked. Let me just pull up my notes here. They were asked about the confidence level of BC's alert system, and the minister, Bowen Ma, said that BC has capacity to issue broadcast intrusive alerts on phones, radios, and TVs. They have useful tools for evacuation orders. that one I just mentioned, but she said that's not the only tool and that overall it is very community dependent, like we were saying. And she said BC works closely with local communities regarding how best to evacuate in the circumstance of an order. And she mentioned those tactical door-to-door evacuations with the assistance of RCMP. But do you think that message is clear? I mean, we're asking our callers, our listeners, our viewers, if they feel confident in the province's alert system. Do they feel prepared if a wildfire were to approach their community? Would they receive enough warning, and would they receive that communication effectively? What do you think the answer is to that?
Well, I don't think that we will get timely information in most cases, especially with these fast-moving fires in specific locations. I mean, we'll get information at a regional level that may be useful for people in the whole area, but I wouldn't anticipate or expect that an alert will tell you that there's a fire raging a block or two from your house, running up a ravine system, for example. I don't think we're going to have that kind of granularity, and that time is not going to be of the essence. So we do need more boots on the ground, so to speak, in terms of observing fire behavior. We need people out there that are using social media, for good or ill, as we've seen in the past, to let people know in their neighborhoods what's happening.
It's interesting. I was in Alberta recently in Calgary, and there was that significant tornado that touched down. And my phone, I have a BC number. I received an emergency alert, a warning saying, take shelter immediately. There's an imminent tornado nearby. So I think in that case, it worked quite effectively. But as you mentioned, this isn't a tornado. These are wildfires. So perhaps there's even a little bit more leeway with time to warn people. And you heard the concerns, I think, from the chief, Keith Crow, saying that why didn't we get on this sooner? And maybe talk a little bit about the difference we're seeing with Yellowknife, for example. The officials there last night made it clear that this was almost a preemptive measure. They were giving people until Friday at noon to get out. So they were trying to urge calm and saying, we're doing this proactively. Compare that to what happened this week near Karamia and the concerns that the converse happened, that they didn't warn them soon enough. They just should have taken those steps sooner and quicker, and it shouldn't have been so last minute. So how do you kind of reconcile those two situations?
Right. Well, I really applaud the government of the Northwest Territories for making that decision. Being proactive in that case makes a lot of sense, because we've got communities that are really remote. To evacuate sometimes means having to go 1,000+ kilometers to another region, another community. And of course, not a lot of highways in and out of these towns and cities. So I think they made clearly the right decision. We have, as we've seen here in BC, very similar kinds of situations in some communities as well. I worry a lot about some of the communities that are not only remote, but are also on islands, like in the Gulf Islands, and whether or not we have the capacity to deal with fires there. These are all these fires and all these sort of circumstances, these situations are showing us that we can't just have one approach. It really has to be highly customized, as I've suggested.
Okay, thank you for that, Professor. I'm going to keep you on standby. Let's take a caller, though, right now. We've got Tim Duncan on the line. I understand, Tim, you owned a home in Calgary during the 2013 floods. I recall those vividly, having covered them there. You're saying you were on block watch with other fathers, and you weren't told until it was too late. Take us through your experience in that sense.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. It's Tim Kaler, not Tim Duncan. I'm in Duncan, BC right now. So anyways, it was the 2013 flood, which basically devastated Calgary, or parts of Calgary. We had a block watch going basically to keep people out of the neighborhood that were coming in and breaking into homes. And as we watched the floodwaters start to rise, we started asking questions, and because we didn't have access to any of the senior people that were watching all this stuff happening, we were taking our cues from the RCMP, or not the RCMP, but the City of Calgary Police Department. And it was basically at around 11 o'clock at night where they came to us and they said, look, you better get out of here, get home. We're hearing things that upstream there is total chaos and devastation happening, and you only got matters of hours to basically get your stuff together and get out of here. And we went back to our houses and tried to get as much of the stuff out of our basements, because we had never experienced a flood like that, even in 2 years prior to that. nothing like this. And then the waters came. We had everything coming down the streets, and we just basically watched our houses go underwater and tried to pull as much, of our belongings out of our basements before the waters basically consumed the whole neighborhood. It was quite tragic, actually.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Let's take your experience and apply that to the current disasters in regards to the wildfires. I understand you say in regards to our provincial alert system, you think it should be at a micro level, but that communities aren't necessarily being proactive. Tell me about that more.
Yeah, so one of the things that, like reflecting back on that whole experience is there should have been no reason why, at the city level, that they were not communicating that this was going to be absolutely, a insane, event. Like it was going to be a very devastating event. And I look at even all the work that's been done by the city of Calgary, and there should be ways to use that information and leverage it towards some of these fire events. We've got lots of data on what they did right and what they did wrong. They've had lots of post meetings on this, and they've come up with certain strategies. And I think we need to sort of leverage a lot of these events that have happened, not only in Calgary, but like we had the wildfires in Fort McMurray. Like what information are we using from all of these different events to basically help mitigate events from happening like now, and getting information out to communities so that they can make really sound choices and move their families out to safety.
That's a good point. And Tim, you brought up some very thoughtful points there. Thank you so much for your call. And I do want to put more of these questions to our professor who's standing by. But first, we need to take a break for a news update. Here is Michelle Morton.
Good afternoon. Here are the headlines from the CBC Vancouver newsroom. BC's Minister of Emergency Management says they are preparing for the worst, warning the next 24 to 48 hours will be critical to the wildfire situation in BC. A cold front is moving through parts of the province, and it's expected to bring strong winds and potentially dry lightning, causing concern for new fire starts and the spreading of fires that are already burning. Around 480 people are under an evacuation order in the province, and more than 4,900 are on an evacuation alert. BC's Premier has issued a statement offering support for people in the Northwest Territories. There's now an evacuation order for 22,000 people in the territorial capital, Yellowknife, because of the threat from a nearby wildfire. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is holding an emergency meeting to discuss the current wildfires in the Northwest Territories. The incident response group is made up of senior officials and ministers. And due to ongoing drought conditions, Merritt has implemented level 5 watering restrictions. The Coldwater River is described as being in a crisis situation, with its ability to support fish and other animals being put at risk. Lawn watering is now banned, and garden sprinklers are not allowed. Residents are also being told flowers, trees, and shrubs can no longer be watered using potable city water. In the local forecast, sunny today, highs of 26, except 29 inland, and clear for tonight with a low of 12. Now back to BC Today with Tanya Fletcher.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Well, let's take us back to the wildfire situation now. And while we have been focusing on BC, as provincial officials have just provided a live update right before showtime, of course, the big situation dramatically unfolding today is in the Northwest Territories, with the entire city of Yellowknife under evacuation order. Now, we heard in that news conference earlier that some of those evacuees are arriving at YVR from the Northwest Territories. We want to bring you there live. Our Yvette Brend is standing by there at the airport. So, Yvette, what are you hearing in terms of how BC can help possibly with the Northwest Territories?
Well, we did just hear from the Emergency Management Minister, Climate Change Minister Bowen Ma last hour, who said, that in BC our hearts go out to the people in the Northwest Territories, to Yellowknifers, who 22,000 people, right, hitting the road, trying to get on flights. And one of those flights is supposed to land here at now that it's been moved to 12:45. We're hoping to talk to some of those people as they arrive. BC has offered to take 55 patients from the hospital that's ramping down there. They have an intensive care unit and about About 33 of them are people that are in home care. They need somewhere else to be that is safe. So they're being flown out today and arriving in Vancouver. So that's one of the ways that this province is trying to reach out and help the people that are being forced out of their homes, forced out of the hospital, which, as you can imagine, would be incredibly stressful for everyone, their family, themselves. But, BC, as you've been reporting, for hours now, we're facing our own crisis. We have this cold front coming in and lightning expected and our own record wildfire season. So the minister has said that, at this time we will not be sending firefighters. In the next 24 to 48 hours, officials are saying we're facing a critical moment in a record wildfire season and some of the most challenging conditions that this province has faced. So it probably won't be wildfire fighters at this point. And as you can imagine, all those hotels filled, reception centers filled in Alberta. I know of people that have driven all the way down to Edmonton, even Vancouver, to stay from the Great Slave Lake area. So I would imagine that BCers could open their homes, could offer a place for people to stay if they have relatives or family there. But we are limited by our own crisis here as well.
You bet. Thank you for that context, Yvette. And I know you'll be watching for that plane to arrive in about 10 minutes' time. Hopefully we'll check in with you throughout the day. Thank you so much for bringing us the latest from YVR.
Thank you, Tanya.
All right, now let's shift back from the Yellowknife situation back to the BC situation. We're going to check in with someone who has just experienced being evacuated from the Crater Creek wildfire near Karameas yesterday. Emma Roberts was one of more than 100 people who was stranded at Cathedral Lakes Lodge overnight in the provincial park there. So, Emma, thank you so much for chatting with us. I'd like you to take us through what happened exactly in the moment and how you first found out about what a threat and danger this really was.
For sure. I had actually just been hiking for a few hours and had just come back to the lodge where I was informed that someone had just called up from below, down by the campgrounds. They had left the Cathedral Lakes Lodge and the campground earlier in the afternoon, and they were actually having to turn back because the fire was on the road now. And this was the first that anybody had heard of this. It was just from some other hikers who were on their way back home. And so they turned around and came back up and let everyone know that, the fire had reached the road. And at this point, people were trying to get a hold of emergency services and BC Wildfire as much as possible. But there did seem to be a little bit of a difficulty, whether that was just from having like a single phone line and, Wi-Fi that can be a bit spotty. There were some people on hold when I had arrived back from hiking. And there had still been no information or any official information apart from what these hikers had told us. So I thought it best to call my dad. He is the regional director of the area, so I hoped he could provide some insight into what was going on the ground. And having called him, that just sort of opened some lines of communication, and eventually we were able to, get in touch with BC Wildfire.
Yeah, it sounds like there was little to no cell service. How was the communication with the guests overall? And I'm going to bring in our professor to talk a bit more about this afterwards. But talk a bit about kind of after the fact and how that was dealt with the shelter-in-place aspect as well.
Yeah, so the shelter being the site in Karameas, is that what you're referring to, or at the lodge? Okay, so I'm actually also a member of the ESS, so the Emergency Service support system. So I actually received email updates as well from the ESS as they were setting up this site in town. And so through my dad and through ESS, I was able to get a bit more information there. Because the internet is quite limited, when people started to see the smoke, there were definitely more people on the internet, and that slows things down a little bit. People trying to find out what's going on, and really for a bit there, we didn't really know what was going on either. But we just, tried to keep everybody calm and, passed along information that was necessary just to keep everybody calm. But we were in a safe place. So at the time, the best place for us was to just remain at the lodge.
No doubt. Quite the harrowing situation. Knowing what you know now, would you change anything about how you'd like to receive that wildfire information, or from that firsthand perspective, what do you think could have done better, perhaps?
I think it was definitely nerve-wracking for many that we didn't hear anything official for some time. It's very possible they were trying to get a hold of people at the lodge. You know, I don't know, that could have been a possibility. But from my understanding, we hadn't received anything official until I had, tried to push for information through my dad.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're okay. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
No problem.
Thank you. That is Emma Roberts. She's the manager of the Howling Bluff Estate Winery and was one of the more than 100 guests had to be evacuated from Cathedral Lakes Lodge because of that wildfire near Kiramias. Let's bring back in our professor from Thompson Rivers University, Mr. Mehta. Thank you so much for standing by with us. We've been talking about communications and how people are alerted, whether it's sufficient. And let's talk about Hawaii, what happened on Maui with Lahaina. Essentially, their alert system failed. What are the lessons to be learned there and applying that to BC?
Yeah, one of the things we know about alert systems is that although the technology may work and may work very well in certain circumstances, is that there are humans behind it. And we know that bureaucracies are really inefficient and slow and often have bottlenecks when it comes to making decisions that are, the foundation of these alerts. So for instance, in British Columbia, if a community is at risk and there's a need to perhaps evacuate that community, it has to go through various channels all the way to the Minister of Emergency Services, the Premier's office in some cases, and then back through the various layers of the bureaucracy in order for that alert to be pushed out. That's a problem. We need the local communities need the autonomy to make those decisions to protect their people right away. And that is, I think, one of the reasons why there's also a loss of trust in the current system. Some people feel that perhaps their communities, that their small communities, First Nations communities, remote communities, again, are being treated differently, that their response is perhaps somewhat different than if they had lived in a bigger city or there was a higher population. Some people feel that the resources of the wildfighters are also spread inappropriately, that they're unequal in terms of their distribution. So we have a lot of problems in BC. I mean, we also are learning a lot from year to year, which should help us maybe going forward be a bit better.
I want to come back to that note you mentioned about equity there. First, I'll put out a call again to our listeners and viewers. Call us at 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, star or pound 690 on your cell phone. You can email BC Today as well at cbc.ca. And we are asking, do you feel informed about wildfire risks? Are you confident in the province's alert system? Should you be at the center of one of these evacuation orders? We've got thousands of people currently on alert in this province. So let's go back to our professor. You mentioned some inequities there. Who's the most vulnerable in regards to not having access to that crucial information, and how can that be improved?
So remoteness is the biggest factor. If you're remote, if you're away from an urban center, if you have maybe only one road in and out of your community, if you don't have broadband, if you've got a community that's perhaps has an aging demographic, all of these things make it more difficult to communicate, especially with information technology, not only because of the technological barriers, but also because of the social barriers and the economic barriers. This is, I think, one of the reasons why, for example, some of the communities in the northern parts of BC still, believe it or not, rely upon fax machines in order to get information. And they have individuals then in their emergency operations centers that are volunteers in some cases, that will then take that fax to chief and council, make decisions, and then go back and forth through fax with various levels of government. So they're the vulnerable. I'm not too worried about people who live in larger cities like where I am in Kamloops, Kelowna, Vancouver, Victoria, etc. Although I am really concerned that if a fire broke out on that scale, what to do with tens of thousands of people. What's happening in the Northwest Territories is unprecedented. 22,000 plus people being evacuated. We've never had that in Canada, and it is going to flood our system. And I don't know how this stress test will work in the long run.
Okay, let's pause. I want to bring in a caller. We've got Linda from Nakusp on the line. So, Linda, you're wondering why BC Wildfires is not updating their sites more frequently. Take us through your experience with that.
Yeah, well, we have had several fires around us, 3 up to the north on the way to Shelter Bay, Galena Bay ferry, and those ones are still burning quite vigorously. But when I look online at their site, I don't see any updates from since August 12th or so. That's way too long for people to know what to do, because we too are in a very vulnerable, isolated area. We have 3 exits from this place, 2 which are by ferry, 1 which is by road, but they all go through forests. And with the number of tourists that we have in the area now too, to get out on a ferry is going to be dicey. And we really need a lot more immediate information about what's happening. I don't really have a lot of faith in the BC Wildfire Service at this point that we will get that timely information. I don't know what is to be done, but their communication, I think, is definitely lacking hugely.
It's interesting you mentioned the ferry. I know we had a situation in that wildfire near the shoe swap just north of yeah, that's right, exactly, by Kamloops. And that was the only route out was by ferry, by boat. And so I think there were some concerns as well that the communication and the expedition of that could have been handled a little bit better. On that note, Michael Mehta, a lot of people have shared information, news updates on social media. We know it's been happening with Meta, blocking news content on platforms, Facebook, Instagram. So how is that changing things in real time, where in a situation like this, even a month ago, that's how people might have shared essential information?
Yeah, and the same thing has happened with Twitter, now X, where they actually blocked communities for communicating too many times and exceeding their quota when they're trying to communicate about issues just last month here in BC. It is huge. And maybe I'm going to put something out there that might sound a little crazy, but maybe we need our own Made in BC social media platform that is a little bit more independent and can do these kinds of things, be more robust perhaps, and allow us to communicate with each other. But again, as I said earlier, this still puts all of our eggs into that one basket of what you can access through your cell phone in most cases. And as we've seen, that's not necessarily the best option.
Thank you for that, Michael Mehta. We're going to leave it there for now. Thank you so much for your insight and expertise in joining us on the air today.
Thank you very much.
That is Michael Mehta, professor at Thompson Rivers University. We do have a few more emails to read here on this topic. Carol writes, we have had increasing warnings for 30 years and have been told that these types of catastrophes will happen. We did not listen, and this is the result. Thanks for that, Carol. We have an email as well from Elizabeth, who writes, I'm surprised that we are not closing access to the backcountry for all recreational activities during this period. Having people out there is such an unpredictable period. It's dangerous and only compounds the issue. Thank you for that, Elizabeth. And on that note, I want to just summarize and recap the press conference from the province and wildfire officials that happened at 11 a.m. And on that note, they told people who are going into the backcountry, make sure if you're going out into an area that might be threatened by wildfire to check ahead of time for any possible alerts or orders that might affect you. Again, we are expecting a significant weather event starting today. That's how they dubbed it. It's going to start in the north, sweep down across the south through the interior. They say the weather is forecast to be erratic and problematic, likely going to see a significant number of new fire starts. They say this is going to be the most challenging 24 to 48 hours of the summer so far. They say this is a unique event. Province-wide, it is rare that we see this type of thing, and the highest areas of impact will likely be in southern BC, where we've had those heat warnings in place for days now. They are telling people as well, be proactive. If you think you might be affected, reach out to friends and family ahead of time to see if you might be able to stay with them should the need arise. And this, as well as we mentioned, they're preparing to take in evacuees from Yellowknife. The province of Vancouver Coastal Health, Fraser Health, Providence Healthcare, all preparing plans to accept patients. They're being triaged and assessed at YVR as they arrive. That flight was supposed to land exactly 3 minutes ago at 12:45 Pacific. We will check in with our reporter later throughout the day to see those 55 patients, whether they made it and where they're going next. Let's switch gears now to another topic. And supporters marked a grim anniversary this week in Vancouver, Abbotsford, and Ottawa with public rallies. It has been 2 years since the Taliban took power in Afghanistan, and restrictions on women and girls have steadily increased. For more, we've reached Lauren Oates, Executive Director of Canadian Women for Women in Afghanistan. Hello, Lauren. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell us more about the rallies that were held this week here in BC.
There were a few. There was one in Ottawa on Sunday at Parliament Hill, and that was organized by our own chapter there in Ottawa, as well as the Afghan Canadian community in Ottawa. And they were able to get a good crowd out and just try to draw attention to an issue that is receiving less and less attention, even as it gets more and more serious, and the impact on women and girls more and more grave. So that and the rally in Vancouver on Tuesday night, and another one at the campus of the University of the Fraser Valley in Abbotsford, organized by that university and their campus community on Tuesday as well. The effort is really just to try to reinvigorate attention to the issue, call for the recognition of gender apartheid as a crime against humanity, which gives some tools to use for justice and accountability, and to warn against the recognition of the Taliban, which seems to be happening more and more by some governments, and to just try to expose the human rights violations that women and girls are being subject to in these 2 years of Taliban rule.
How have conditions changed for women and girls in Afghanistan over the past 2 years?
The conditions have spiraled pretty dramatically in this relatively short period of time. It's really unimaginable from prior to August 2021 to it was 2 years on Tuesday that the Taliban have been in power. And in that time, they've imposed some 80 different formal edicts or restrictions on the population, about 50 of which are specifically intended to curtail the rights of women and girls. Pretty well known are the restrictions on girls' secondary education, which is banned, women's higher education. But there's lesser known restrictions as well around, transportation, women being allowed to visit public places like parks. There was the closure of all the beauty salons in the country a couple of months ago, which took jobs away from about 60,000 women. And then just recently, we're starting to hear reports that primary education is also being crawled back in some areas, that girls over the age of 10 or past grade 3 are not going to be allowed to attend school. There was a closure of all the teacher colleges in the country last month. It's almost mind-boggling, just the pace of regressive change and all the restrictions that the culmination of that is the word that so many Afghan women use is being erased from public, political, social life of their country.
How are refugees to Canada being supported, and what are some of the challenges around that?
Yeah, Canada committed to take 40,000 Afghan refugees. And the last figures I saw, we're getting pretty close. I think it's in around 38,000 or 37,000 something. So it has taken a couple of years to get approved applications through and more refugees to Canada. A good number of people are still waiting in Pakistan, and that's also has its own set of difficulties. Often people are on short visas and they can expire before they're able to get to a safe third country. And then sometimes they actually have to go back to Afghanistan to get new visas or risk being arrested or deported. So there's a whole host of challenges facing refugees. And that number of refugees is really swelling. I've seen estimates of around 1.5 million people who left only since August a couple years ago, joining the already existing large population of Afghan refugees. So, I think it's amazing that Canada has taken in 40,000. And that is a higher figure than most other countries in the world. But the need is still so great. We've got to get more people to safety, especially women and girls who are at such high risk, and then address all the challenges of resettlement. It's not easy to leave your home and make a new life, a new home on the other side of the world.
On that note, you said the need is so great. We've got about a minute left here. What are some ways that people can get involved to help?
Yeah, we need kind of a twofold strategy. One is to address the immediate needs and to find alternative ways to get access to education for women and girls, like online and distance education. And then we have to think about the medium and long term, which is the full restoration of the right to education for all women and girls. We can't accept the status quo, as what will be forever. So we have to do what we can right now under these very challenging circumstances, while also working towards long-term change and making sure that eventually all classroom doors are open again for women and girls.
Lauren, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You bet. That's Lauren Oates, Executive Director of Canadian Women for Women in Afghanistan. Well, this September, a new performing arts festival will come to life in the Kootenays. It's named after a famous elephant. The Ed Festival will dive into an historic moment going back to 1926 when 14 elephants escaped in Cranbrook. As Corey Bullock tells us, a local artist has created a giant elephant puppet that, come September, will roam the streets once again.
Cranbrook artist Marcel Daraj is working to bring the story of Charlie Ed back to life.
So it was like a lot of looking at elephant anatomy and just trying to match it with the materials I could find here and there. So
picture it, Cranbrook, 1926. The circus is in town. Suddenly, 14 elephants get loose from their enclosure. One of them, named Charlie Ed, ends up on the lam for 6 weeks.
That was an event that created the news, made the news, and I feel that at this point we need to remember that happened.
And miraculously, on September 14th, Charlie Ed was found. And after Charlie Ed was found, he was put in a CPR baggage car, kind of like the one that we are in now, and he was used in Sells Floto's Fall Fun Fair.
Unfortunately, years later, Charlie Ed attacked his trainer, leading to his demise by firing squad.
Definitely not the best way to go. Poor Ed.
Fast forward to 2023, Ed's legacy lives on through the hearts of people in Cranbrook. He's become the city's unofficial mascot.
For me, Ed represents like the freedom and the art that we all have inside of us, the artistic vein, if you wish.
Marcel says he used 80% recycled materials to build the mighty puppet, and the process began last winter.
It is giant. Like you'd think like, oh yeah, 16 feet tall is like pretty big. Once you see it in person, oh my goodness, it is huge.
And while Ed was a much smaller elephant than what Marcel has depicted with his art, it's a grand representation of one of the grandest stories in Cranbrook.
So Ed will roam the streets of Cranbrook forever, basically, as a free soul, free spirit.
Ed Fest takes place on September 9th. Corey Bullock, CBC News, Cranbrook.
And that is our show for today. Just before we go, a reminder of the urgent messaging from BC wildfire officials today about an incoming weather front that is expected to bring gusty winds and dry lightning. They're expecting it to be the most challenging 24 to 48 hours of the fire season so far. Right now, 480 properties are on evacuation order province-wide, with nearly 5,000 others on alert. Officials say more resources are coming tomorrow and into next week. And if there's ever a time to have evacuation plans, the message is that is now. Have your grab and go bag ready. They say now is not the time to disobey evacuation orders, and you're being urged to please leave if you are evacuated and to make space for first responders. That is the message from fire officials. We will be watching the weather to see how that affects the situation, and we will keep you up to date on the latest. My thanks to everyone who called in and joined the discussion today. You can always email us at bctoday@cbc.ca, and you can listen to the show again on the CBC Listen app and watch us on demand on the CBC Vancouver YouTube page. I'm Tanya Fletcher. Thank you so much for watching and listening.